Hi, you guys. Yes, you read the title correctly. In this tale, I was confronted by the wife he didn't have, right? Same old story. So, this one is going to be slightly different from my previous ones because, and those I talked about the online dates that I had, and how you get to them and no one is who they say they are. They're either older or much younger or shorter or heavier than they've led themselves on to be. And of course, today with online dating, you can see all of that up front. But this particular one, I am going to be talking about a relationship that I'd gotten into and um, the results of all of that. So let's get started. Click the like button and the subscribe button. And I would like to know some comments after you've watched the video as to what you would have done in this situation. Of course, things are different for all of us, and my reactions are, what can I say? My reactions. So, in this particular circumstances of events, I'd met a guy when we were both out. So we were out at I want to say a nightclub, and people are meeting and greeting each other and dancing and talking and going to different tables and things like that. And we struck up a conversation which was pretty amicable and friendly and witty. And he was just slightly, well, I say slightly, but some people would be like, what? He was about 12 years older than I was. So I was in my early 30s and he was about 45, 46, which was fine with me. 10 to 12 years is pretty, it's a pretty normal range. We exchanged numbers and everything. And over time, of course, we started dating. He was taking me out. We were having a good time and all of that. Nice gentleman. I do want to say that. The type that opens doors and things like that. By this time, of course, I was divorced, so maybe I probably gotten ahead of this my story here. But by this time, I was divorced and had three young girls. Um, and my ex-husband lived in one city, and I lived in a city that was probably 45 minutes away. So it wasn't like we were, long distance or anything like that. But anyway, I digress. And I don't say I'm a single parent. I mean, really, the ultimate single parent was Mother Mary. Okay. Um, and I get it when women are with someone and then they're no longer with someone, you go from a couple to being single. But everyone hollering, I'm a single parent, I'm a single parent. I have five kids. I'm like, quite a few times you weren't single. So, okay. So, usually what I would say is I'm a single parent through divorce, but it doesn't matter how we get there. Single is still going to be single, I guess. But anyway, on with this story. So I started seeing him, and as I said, the relationship was really good. And for me, like I said in all of my other videos, I just looking for someone to be honest and upfront because that's what I'm going to be. And I always used to think there's no reason for adults to lie because I get it. When you're a kid, you don't want to get in trouble, you don't want to get spanked, you don't want to have to get sent to the corner to think about what you've done. But as adults, it's like you live your life, you do what you're going to do, and you can be open and upfront about it. What kind of trouble can you be in? I mean, sure, people may not like you or they may not agree with you, but what, what purpose does a lie really serve? Okay. But anyway, um, so we were in a relationship, and one day, I had a friend that came up from the city that I used to live in, and the purpose was she was going to meet this guy that I was seeing, and she said to me, "I'm going to tell you in 5 minutes if he's married or not." And I was like, "I've already asked him that. We go out. He doesn't like take me to small, out of the way places where you can't be seen publicly." I said, "I don't think he's married. He's told me he's not. I mean, why would he lie about it? We spent quite a bit of time together. I mean, I guess married men do that too. They can spend time with their mistress and everyone else. But I'm thinking." If you got a job and you have a wife and you have a family, I mean, how many hours are there in the day? If he's spending quite a bit of time with me, that would mean no time with the wife and whatever. So she comes up and we all three meet. We're at my place and we're just talking and having, adult conversation because the kids weren't around. And after he left, my friend said to me, and she's, like I am, upfront and honest. She's not going to pull any punches. We don't play that where I say, but he says this, and she goes, well, maybe it's true. She's like, he's a liar, he's a thief, get rid of him. That's the way she is. So after he left, she said, girl, that man is married. And I said, what? Why are you saying that? Because she asked him all kind of questions. Had he been married before? Was he divorced? How many kids he has? All of that. Things that I already had asked him, we had already talked about and everything. And he was answering them. I mean, it wasn't like he was having to pause or think first or do any of that. So I said, what about his conversation made you think that he was married? And she said, it wasn't a conversation. She said, it was the way he was dressed. Not me. I'm a nerd. I don't judge on any of this stuff. And I said, the way he's dressed, what does that even mean? And she looked at me and said, that man's clothes and accessories and everything match too well. She says, he's being dressed by a woman, and I'm not talking about his mom. She said, it's a woman that makes sure he's put together like that because a guy is not into that kind of detail. So I was like, but he's always dressed nice and look nice and, all of that. She said, I'm not saying it's not nice. I'm saying it's not by his own hand. So I was like, okay, let that percolate for a bit. Now, during this relationship, because, we were seeing so much of each other, I would get to meet some of his friends and some of his coworkers. I mean, like I said, I'm thinking there's no way this guy's married and no one's saying anything. Well, one time he had to go out of town for some reason, who knows, maybe to see someone else. And one of his friends who I'd already met and knew and had gone out with a couple of times had came by and asked for him. And I was like, well, he doesn't live here. So I thought that was strange. And then that friend said, well, do you mind if I just stay for a minute? And I was like, for what? And he said, I think we have something to talk about. And I said, okay. And he proceeded to ask me out. So I was like, I'm seeing, we're going to call this guy that I was seeing Willie. Okay. Now, of course, that's not his real name, but I decided to give him that name because I'm thinking, will he really play me like that? But anyway, so his friend told me that he said, I've been lying to you the whole time. Willie really is married. And I was like, "What? Are you kidding?" And he was like, "No, he's married." And I didn't want to say anything, and I didn't think this was going to last, but I don't want to keep lying. I said, "Well, I would definitely talk with him when he gets back." I said, "What is his wife's name?" And he told me, and I said, "But his son, he had a son. I just named the son Corey." Okay. I said, "But Corey comes by with him and everything. Wouldn't he say, 'Hey, this man is cheating on my mom?'" And he goes, well, Corey is his stepson, so it's not really his son. I said, that makes it even worse. That means it's her son. So you think I mean, why would her son go with his stepdad to see other women? And I get it. These things happen, but I'm saying in my mind, I'm trying to process it as if it's not logical, it doesn't make sense, etc. So this guy then starts to, hit on me. So I'm like, the hell out of here. I mean, first of all, no, that's not going to happen. So anyway, Willie comes back into town, and I tell him, of course, because I'm like, what the hell? What his friend has said. And I said, he says, you are married. He told me your wife's name, and he wouldn't tell me where you live or anything, but he, this is what he told me. So of course, I mean, a liar is going to be prepared to lie. So he said, well, no, I'm not married. He said, the only reason why he told you that is because he was probably over here trying to, get with you himself. And I was like, yeah, he did try to do that. And he was like, it's always been jealous of me. I never should have introduced you to him, da, 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 da. So I was like, okay, we're not going to go there. Um, Everything was semi okay because I'm like, okay, now there's two people. Well, my friend doesn't really know him, but she said, hey, he's married, and you have to at least contemplate that, right? If somebody is lying to you from the beginning through the end. Well, later on, and I want to say, I mean, we continued to see each other and everything. I still had no concrete evidence of anything. Like I said, we were spending a lot of time together. He's treating me well, da da da. Well, I was on my way to visit my um, my city that I grew up in, where I had moved from after my divorce. And at this time, I was um, traveling through Greyhound, so catching a Greyhound bus. Because, like I said, it's only like an hour, well, it's about 45 minutes to an hour away. But of course, when you're on the bus, it's going to be a 2 hour deal, but that's fine. Um, as I was going to the bus station, because Greyhound has these stations where you go in, people are familiar with Greyhound. I was walking through and I happened to see his stepson with his with this woman. And they were walking past me. And I just smiled and I know Corey, I didn't know who the woman was, but I said, "Hi Corey, how are you doing?" And he was totally shocked. Like he didn't know what to say. And he held his head down, eyes hit the ground, and then he goes, "Hey, hey, how you doing?" And the lady that was with him said, "Corey, are you going to introduce me to your little friend?" I'm like, okay. And then Corey said, "Hey, mom, this is Sherry. And Sherry, this is my mom." Uh, Okay. I'm, you know, I'm like, okay. And then the mother looked me up and down and she goes, um, "Young lady, how do you know my son?" And I'm thinking, first of all, I'm not a young lady. I don't even think she said young lady. She said something like little girl or some silly shit. And I was like, I don't know your son. I know his dad, his stepdad, Willie. I almost said his real name. And she goes, "Willie, how do you know Willie?" And I said, "Willie and I are seeing each other. Why is that your concern?" Yeah, because that's the way I am too. I'm like, okay, now we're going to be in each other's business. And she said, "You and Willie are seeing each other?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "Would you mind coming with me to make a phone call?" Now, you have to remember, we didn't have the cell phones back then. We didn't even have the pagers and the beepers. So, and they had, pay phones along the wall. So I'm thinking, that is the strangest. Why is this woman asking me to go with her to make a phone call? Well, I was like, this is my life. This is the kind of tangled stuff I get in without ever knowing it. So we walked over to the payphones and she picks it up and she dials a number and she says, I'll never forget it, you guys. "Hey, honey, how are you doing?" And that person on the other end says something. And she says, "We're at the bus station now. Where are you? Because we're waiting for you to pick us up." And he says something. And then she goes, "Oh, hold on. There's someone here I want you to say hi to." And she gives me the phone, and you already guessed it. It's Willie on the other end. So I say hello, and he goes, "Sherry?" And I said, "Yeah." I go, "Willie?" He said, "Yeah." I said, how do you know Shirley?" And he goes, he, as if he's justified. He said, "Well, you always wanted to know if I was married, so now you know." And then he hangs up the phone. I'm like standing there holding it. Shirley sees me holding it and she goes, "Let me speak back to him." And I said, "He hung up." She said, "Oh dear, I'm sure he has." She said, "That's going to be the last hang up he does." She says, "I am done. I'm through." And if you remember my last video, if you haven't seen it, please watch it. Because that was one where the woman is telling us, just watch it. So she said, we've been married, I think, like, I don't know, 24 years or something to that effect. And she says, and this is not she said, "You're not the first and you won't be the last, but you'll be my last." She said, "When I get home, he can pack up all of his stuff. Would you like for me to have him come over to your place?" And I said, "No, if he's a liar like that." And I looked at Corey and I said, "And did you know that Corey was coming over to my place with him? And that's how I know your son?" And she turned and she looked at her son and she said, "Oh, I will be dealing with him later." And I was like, "Yeah, what the hell?" So I did tell her, I said, first of all, it wasn't a relationship where I knew he was married. I said, I didn't know that he was. Of course, he lied about everything. And I said, and no. He cannot bring any of his things to my place. I do not ever want to see him again. And whatever the two of you do is on you. I said, but I'm glad I was in this bus station at this time of night and this occurred. So honestly, I mean, I know she was hurt and I know she was upset and I know she was shocked, all the same things that I were. But and at first she was, kind of had some animosity toward me, but that was when she thought that I was with her son, because that was one of the things that she said when she said, "Who is this little girl?" She said, "Let me guess, did my son get you pregnant?" I'm like, lady, I'm past the stage of getting pregnant in my life. I am been married, divorced, and I have my own three kids. I didn't say that, but that's what I was thinking. So I was thinking, oh, she thinks I'm with her son. And then, everything else happened. So that was that tale. Of course, I still had to get on my bus and go to where I was going. And I'm like, this is just crazy as hell. And Willie, of course, I don't know what happened with him and her, but when I got back, because I was gone for the weekend, and when I got back, of course, he came over because I wouldn't answer his calls. So he came knocking on my door. Let me explain. I just want to talk to you. What is there to talk about at that point? You lied. Your friends lied. Your son lied. I mean, come on, Willie. Will he get over on you again? So I said, no, I wasn't interested in it. And, it was all good. I wasn't, you know, there was nothing for me to, I mean, you're married, but I, I don't even know what to say at this point, even as I'm sitting here telling the tale. So of course he didn't like give up like that. He would like sit outside my house, wait for me to go to the grocery store or something like that, and call out, at night he would, throw little pebbles to the window trying to get my attention and asking me to come and open the door. So one day that same friend that had told me that he was married, she was over my house. He happened to come by. I'm laughing because the story is just wild. And I had his two-story home, so we were upstairs and he was down in the parking lot, but you can look out the window and see him. But of course, if you could do that, he could look up and see you. So I told my friend, I said, look down, look down. I don't want him to see you. And her silly ass says, girl, you have these protective screens. I don't know what she even meant by that. She says they're darker on the outside, so he won't be able to see us, but we can see him. I'm like, this picture seen too many damn movies. And as soon as she said that, he looks up and goes, I see the two of you in the red. Ah, I was dying. So then she hurried up and ducked behind the wall. Like, and I thought about it and I was like, what the hell are we ducking for? So I got up and hollered out the window and said, if you don't leave right now, I am calling the cops. They're going to know about this entire sordid relationship. And, they're going to come get your ass on out of here. So he was like, you really aren't going to ever talk to me again? And I said, no, I've talked to Shirley. That was all I needed. That was the only person I needed to talk to. Oh, and by the way, tell Corey I said hi. So that was that. That particular night, I never heard from him again. He never called me anymore. If he did come by my house, he was doing it from afar because I never saw him or, had any other contact with him. Now, I can tell you this. Remember when I said that I met his colleagues and other friends and things like that? I did run into one of them a couple of years later, and they told me that Barbara never got back with him again, that she was done, that was it, and he he had to find another place. So those things happen. But anyway, I'm like, yeah, this was very interesting time in my life. And I get it. I mean, sometimes people are in relationships and you don't know, you find things out as you go along. Okay, so sometimes they're married when they say they aren't. They have kids when they say they don't. They live with their mom when they say they own the house. So it's kind of all kinds of things going on. But again, with this the life lessons learned, and seriously, as I said before, once I've learned the lesson, and really the learning of it is not repeating it, not continuing in it, not making excuses for it. So once I found out about Shirley, I was done with him. There was nothing else for me to say. I didn't need to hear any excuses or any reasons or anything as to what led that person to do what they did. What I needed to be concerned with, what my actions and what my steps would be moving forward. And the only thing that really drew me on that entire incident was that um, okay, Barbara was my friend, so I won't say Barbara, but Shirley's son was coming over to the house with his stepdad. Well, I mean, while he was still with his mom. So that's the only part of this whole puzzle that really threw me because I'm like, I don't know, maybe he didn't. I mean, even if you don't get along with your mom, you still don't. I don't know. Although I have to say this because if we're going to be telling the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and we're going to really go back before my time. I shouldn't say before my time, but my dad used to do that when we were really little. Like I would be 4 or 5, and he'd have a couple of my siblings with him. Like we were like, "Oh, Dad's coming over today. We're going to see Dad," and he would take us over to his girlfriend houses. But being 4 and 5, you don't know that there are other women, and so he tells you this is your aunt so and so. So we're like, "Oh." Then you get home and your mom says, "Where were you?" We say we were over Aunt Betty's house, and she's like, "You don't have an Aunt Betty." We're like, "Oh shit." So, I mean, that, and I'm not even making an excuse for that, but we're talking decades ago when I don't want to say that was the norm, but that was the norm. So coming back to my time and that's happened, I'm like, what the hell? I mean, we're no longer in 1940 or 50, but I guess the more things change, the more things stay the same. So that was that. And as I said, I learned from all of my relationships. I write down things that have occurred, lessons that I've learned, things that I don't want to repeat, and little red flags that could have been along the way. And like I said, with this one, for me, and not being worldly, he was spending a lot of time with me. He was a gentleman. I met his colleagues, his friends, his stepson. So it was just crazy. But that's that. We are going to, towards the end of this relationship series, I will talk about how I met my ex-husband and go through the, this is crazy, the events and circumstances that led to our dating, our marriage, and our divorce. And I'm kind of laughing, but it's not a laughing matter. It's only, you can only laugh later in life when it's happening. You're like, what the hell? But it's all about empowerment, and that's what I'm about. And so I would like for you to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, because that helps the algorithm on YouTube. And really, let me know what you would have done in that situation, or at least, similar situations that may have happened to you in your life. Okay, thanks. Bye.